Good afternoon. Welcome to tea time. I am out in the beautiful late winter sun, and I wanted to join you guys for tea time as usual, only a day late because I was having too much fun yesterday. It's funny how fast the time passes when you're immersed in the flow of a moment. So this one's for you, Lucy. Thank you for the suggestion. I wanted to talk today a little bit about trusting yourself and my perspective on it. So all of us have an instinct about what feels right to do and what doesn't feel right to do. And if we're not sure on our instinct, there's certainly lots of professionals out there who can help direct us one direction or another. There's as many opinions as there are people. But what I wanted to talk about is why and when I think we should trust ourselves. So if you're not sure about your instinct, I encourage everyone to look for evidence. So we are taking decisions all the time, whether we sit down or we stand up or we move around or we stand still, when we eat, when we sleep, when we sit in the sunshine and watch the ducks on the pond, or talk to a friend or send an email. Whatever it is that we're doing, we have a decision to make, or we follow a habitual pattern, one or the other. And there's certainly lots of both of those in our lives. Our instinct is going to guide us towards habitual pattern if we don't have a good idea. And so that's where we reach out to professionals and we read books and we read articles and we look for inspiration when we need a good idea. What should I do? When should I do it? When it comes to training horses, we are often in this quandary. Are we spending our time in a worthwhile way? And this is actually a really valid question. So I always joke that freedom-based training is the slowest possible way to train a horse. So if you want to reach a goal in a set period of time, you probably need to work with a different type of training, something that's going to get you there more directly. If your goal is to enjoy your time with the horse as much as they enjoy it with you, so it's a mutual partnership of enjoyment, that is where freedom-based training comes in. And freedom-based training can complement other training methods. If you're using another training method to really hit a goal on a time frame, freedom-based training can be an additional benefit to whatever it is that you're doing. If you take a few minutes and spend that time being with your horse in a way that makes sense. Now that's either going to make sense by instinct, it just feels right, or it's going to make logical sense. I'm a really logical person, so I teach a very logical system for watching the horse's behaviors, learning what's going to happen next, showing the horse how much we understand them, and actually taking action and pausing at the right places so the horse enjoys our company more and more. And it seems to go the other way around as well. As the horse starts to enjoy our company more, we start to enjoy their company more. As we enjoy each other's company, our nervous systems start to settle. And as our nervous systems start to settle, we become better partners. And as we become better partners, then we're able to slowly do more skills as well. But that's a very slow roundabout way to get to the skills part. So if you really need to get to skills, you're probably going to have to pick up something that has a little bit more pressure involved. If you're willing to take the really long, slow road, it's the most fun I've ever had training horses. I never want to do it another way. If I can possibly just do this for the rest of my life, that's what I want to do. And I'm happy to share it with whoever is interested to whatever degree. So let's say you come up with a strategy of when you're moving, when you're standing still, and you think it's going to help the horse enjoy your company more. You think it's going to make the relationship feel better. How do you trust yourself that that's true? You gather evidence. You have to gather the evidence. I promise you, life is never stagnant. It is either getting better or it's getting worse. So if you gather the evidence, does your horse seem more interested, more curious, more engaged, using the senses more in harmony with others? You're doing something right. Keep doing it. If your horse feels like they are devolving into concern more often, there's more push behaviors, there's more pull behaviors. Now, there's a couple things that might be happening. It may have nothing to do with you. That is what happens when stress rises. So when stress rises, you're going to get more dysfunctional behavior. The question then to ask yourself is, how much was I a factor in that stress rising? And how much is it the weather, the environment, my horse's current exhaustion levels, their health? Those are all those factors as well. So we're going to think about that. We're going to gather the evidence, and then we're going to think about it. And then if we're not sure, okay, so let's say we're not sure if we're making this better or worse, then just keep doing it. Because I promise you, at some point, it'll get better or it'll get worse. It never, ever stagnates. Now, it's sometimes very slow, sometimes very gradual. So this is where I start encouraging people to take notes. Every time you're with your horse, write down 1 or 2 words about how did your horse seem to feel today. Write down 1 or 2 words about what behaviors you could affirm that your horse thought of all by themselves. Write down 1 or 2 words about a way that you were able to help your horse feel better. Write down 1 or 2 words about something you could ask the horse to do that was really easy for them. Write down 1 or 2 words about something you could ask the horse to do that was a little bit challenging. So if you go through this process and you just take notes each time you spend time with the horse, you're gonna see trends. You're gonna see trends where it's getting better and trends where it's getting worse. You have a logical mind. You can think, if it's getting worse, is it because of something I'm doing? In which case, it's time to change, experiment, try something different. Or is it because of the environment, their exhaustion levels, their health, et cetera, and I'll just hold course to see if I can sway things for the better or they keep getting worse. So if you're not sure, just keep doing what you're doing and it will get clear. And so if you're not sure if you can trust yourself, it just means that you haven't given it long enough to gather enough evidence. At some point, I promise you, it will become brilliantly clear that you're on the wrong track. And then you'll apologize to your horse and you'll do better. That's what freedom is all about, is we try things. Now, as we work on this, we get better and better at seeing when we're going off course before we've gone too far off course. But that is a process of learning. So when people say, we talk about how we should trust ourselves, I say you should trust yourself by gathering evidence and thinking about it. And if it isn't clear, just keep doing what you're doing. Unless you get a new inspiration. If you have a new inspiration, it might be from reading a book, it might be from talking to a professional or listening to a podcast, or just a dream you had in the middle of the night. If you get a new inspiration and you really want to try it, try that. I find most horses thrive on change as long as it's not forced on them. Change that's forced on them can be stressful, just like for any of us. But if we show up and we are the change, we're not forcing the change on them, I find they enjoy the novelty. What will my human think up next? Now, if you're really bothering them, cut it in half. If you're still bothering them, cut it in half again. If you're still bothering them, cut it in half again. At some point, you may need to change tactics completely. But generally speaking, if you're irritating your horse or scaring them, it's just a matter of intensity. You're doing it too hard or too long, too much too soon. So you could still run with your idea. You just need to cut it in half, or cut it in half a few times before it'll sit well with your horse. If you find you don't like your idea, find a new one. And I really believe that change is a beautiful thing as long as it is voluntary. We have to allow the horse to tell us what does and doesn't work for them. So as I come up with theories and I test them out, not every theory works, but that is the fun of the game. You think of a thing and you try it and you watch your horse. Did our relationship get better when I tried that, or did it get worse? If it got worse, what was too much too soon? If nothing's changing at all, I'm probably not really paying attention, because life is constant change. We are constantly evolving. We are growing, we're getting older, we are more hungry or less hungry, or more tired or less tired. We want to sort of gauge which waves are we catching. So if we can meet our horse in the moment and spend time with them in a way where it feels like our engagements get better and better and better, and we say goodbye for the day, and we come back tomorrow and we catch another wave, and our engagements and our interactions get better and better and better, and then we say goodbye and we go away and we come back the next day. That's a pattern we want to keep repeating until you get an inspiration to try something new. And when you go to try something new, you may find you end up on the wrong side of the wave. So you show up and you go to catch that wave and it doesn't work out, and your horse doesn't want to spend time with you, and they're kind of grumpy and they're kind of irritated, and they just don't want to play. They don't want to be curious. They don't want to engage. Then you have to think, was it my change that caused that? Was it just the time of day, the weather, physical pain, etc.? How do I start catching the right waves again? What changes do I need to make? And you're going to gather a bunch of successes. You're going to gather a bunch of failures. And then your failures, you have to decide whether you discard them completely or you just cut them in half and see if maybe you can take the same actions in a way that is less intense so that your horse can enjoy them with you. So my main statement here is, yes, trust yourself, trust your instincts, trust your desires, trust the things you experiment with, but verify. Verify that it is working as well as you hoped it would work. And if it's not, change something. That's life. We are here to answer questions, solve puzzles, figure out what comes next. We only do that by trying things. So yeah, absolutely. If you have an idea, try it. If you're not sure if it's working, just keep trying it. I promise you, it will either get better or it will get worse. Now, what about those plateaus? You have plateaus where you feel like, oh, nothing's getting better. It's just the same every day. If you do it long enough, I guarantee you, it will come off the plateau in a good way or a bad way. And you will get better and better at noticing, are we coming off that plateau in a way where we're ready for a new growth edge? Or are we coming off of that plateau in a way where we're frustrated and irritated and that contempt is seeping into the relationship, in which case it's time for something new or different. This is something that I do deal with in my own life, but I love new things. I love trying new plans. I find consistency difficult for me. And so when I started working with Atlas, who was really traumatized, and I realized how important consistency was for him, horses that have been really traumatized do not thrive on change. Horses that have been really traumatized need consistency and safety so much in their interactions that change starts to feel okay again. And so, as I said, most horses thrive on change as long as it's not forced on them. But horses that have been through significant trauma need stability more than they need change. And so if any horse that has had a lot of trauma, we're going to go ahead and find two things that work, two things that make them feel happy to be alive. And then we're going to do those two things as often as possible. And then eventually we will try something new and we might find something that works. And then we have three things, and we'll have three things that we do consistently. So with Atlas, those things that I could do consistently were talk to him. He likes sounds. So using my voice is not something I do a lot with my other horses, but with Atlas, it was a thing that he really appreciated. So I started doing it more consistently for him. The way that I touch him, he likes to be touched like he's a butterfly. This is not normal in my opinion. Most horses like a good, strong, firm touch that's not tickling. Not Atlas. Atlas likes to be touched like he's the most delicate flower on earth. And I started bringing that into the relationship consistently. Once you have a long plateau of consistent behaviors that make your horse light up a little bit, then you can try one or two new ones. But this is that 80-20 thing that's probably good to remember. 80% of the time, be consistent for a horse that's really traumatized. Only 20%, maybe even 10%, start feeling into new behaviors so you can find other things that make them feel good. With most horses, it's going to be the opposite. 80% novelty. Try new things all the time, but be willing to discard them or cut them in half and cut them in half again if your horse goes, no, I don't love that one. That one doesn't work for me. And the way they're going to say they don't love it is they're going to either push or pull if it's a very strong opinion, or they are going to just shut down a little bit and try and ignore you. So if they really seem to be trying hard to ignore you, you've probably overwhelmed them a little bit, if it's more than normal. Lucy, yeah, I think that Atlas would really enjoy singing. I was studying him the other day and I noticed that his ear twitches every time there's a snort from a horse in the herd. His ear twitches every time the eagles call in the sky as they're flying above us. He notices sounds all the time. So this means on the one hand, he can get really overwhelmed by sounds, and anything like, even if the birds are singing too loud all at once, it can be really overwhelming for him. But if it's not overwhelming, it's a thing that he loves. And so I know him pretty well now, and I know what degree of sound is within his range that it lights him up, that it makes him feel like he likes this life with me more. Hi Chantal, I'm glad you and Amity are here. I'm so glad you're having fun practicing together. Let me go back, and I think there's some other comments here that I missed as I was in the throes of my idea. Louise says, we are the change, not forcing the change. Yeah, we are the change, and we can offer the change. And if it's not the right change, we can change the change. That's the beautiful thing. That's the exciting part. Dell says, I completely love the long, slow road. It's the most fun I've had training in my life. Thank you. You and me, Dell, we're in here for the long haul. Once you feel how glorious it is to have the horse enjoy it just as much as you do, it's hard to go back to more efficient, pressure-based methods. They can combine just fine, but I love training with the horses more than I love training horses. And Marie says that's so true in all relationships. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining me for tea time. I have a couple of pieces of news. I am going to be teaching a clinic in California the end of March, which I'm excited about. If any of you guys are in California, I'd love to see you. We'll be in Winters. And I just got accepted as one of the presenters for the Western States Horse Expo in Sacramento. So that'll be in the beginning of June. And I'd love to see some of you guys there, for all of you California people. For people on the East Coast, I have a clinic that is organized for Georgia. And it'll be just outside of Savannah, Georgia, I believe. This will be my first time there. We've got a whole herd of Mustangs that we're going to be working with. So if any of you guys want to join me in Georgia, that'll be in October. This is really exciting for me because they say you have to go away from home before people will recognize your skills close to home. And it's been a lot of years that I've been going to Europe, and I've been going to Australia, and I've been going to New Zealand, and I love all the students I get to work with. But it is kind of exciting for me that I'm starting to be invited more places close to home. Oh, Indiana. I will also be in Indiana in the very last week of May, first week of June. So I will be there right before I go to California and Sacramento. So I've got 4 locations this year in the US for any of you guys who want to come see me and you don't want to come all the way to Europe or Australia or New Zealand. So I'm looking forward to all of the teaching ahead of me, but even more than that, I am looking forward to the next few months at home, finishing the book, getting that out officially. I'm working on it with the editor right now. It should definitely be coming out this year. I will have an official date for you guys very soon. And playing with my horses. It's slow. I'm gonna trust my instinct. I'm gonna try things, and then I'm gonna gather evidence. Some of the things I try are gonna work. Some of them are not gonna work. And that's what lets me trust myself, is because we'll keep assessing which things went well and which things didn't, and that educates my intuition. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. I love chatting about ideas. If you guys have any subject you want me to dive into with you, just let me know. I'm always happy to explore things. You know me, I love new things. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. I am gonna go feed some horses. It is winter here. Everybody's a little bit chill and ready for some dinner. Have a wonderful day, you guys.